get John back in the mix, and then I do want to hear from some of the others.
So,
Um, you said the word explore, and I don't know if you recall the context you said it in, but John, we're sort of in the practical aspect of coaching effectiveness to get results, and you are able to apply the theory of thinking and improving thinking. John, can you comment on, and I'm just throwing the word explore out too, because you have observed more practices and more games than any of us in many different sports. So, John, would you comment, please?
Well, well, listening to everyone here, thank you. This is quite amazing. I love it because all the amazing experience that is here, and it's fantastic. So, just to go back a little bit here before I touch on exploration, when we talk about small area games or small games or game sense, we talk about the players just playing games, but I think the part of the exploration I did was to start playing with these, experimenting with these sort of numbers, and we go back. I talked to Dean about this a lot. Is the primary task for the players is to learn 1 versus 1. So you start from there, right? So, and you start building up that sort of, um, I call it a Rubik cube, where the players become very good at 1-on-1. Then you expose them to 2-on-1, 2-on-2, 3-on-2, 3-on-3, and then finally for hockey will be 5-on-5. And soccer, you go to 11-11 eventually. Youth soccer now is 7-7, 6-6. But I found that if you explore and design these ideas as a coach, you expose the players to a better um, environments of performing. We talk about constraint lead approach, the performer, the environment, and the task that we give the player. So if we understand that relationship, I think we start getting a better view of what these players can achieve, and we open the door for the players to become better at understanding the game. Because I think the challenge we have is, yeah, we know the game, we understand the game, but it's not about us, it's about the kids, U8 or U10 or whatever. It doesn't matter how much you know, it doesn't matter where you play, it doesn't matter that I play soccer, hockey, it doesn't matter. What matters is what that kid, that young player is understanding, how he viewed the game, how he explored the game. I go back to that exposure of game play time is so important. And we just, we talk about transitions. I will add the concept of anticipation. How we teach this? Well, these concepts are very, very complex. And yeah, we can talk about transition and we say, well, that kid doesn't understand. And I always say to Dean, well, when you say that, I'll ask you, coach, who's the problem here? Is that the kid or you? And I think we have to point to ourselves and be responsible, take responsibility, because if we cannot have a kid at 8 years old, 9, 10, do a nice transition, understanding anticipation, I think it's our fault. And I have tried this, I have experimented with my kids, and I tell you, it's amazing. Because now they have understand the concept through their own experience, their own view, their own eyes, their own perception. As Dean said, they need to understand, not us. We are the wisdom guys. But yes, how we transfer this knowledge. So when you explore this sort of game design and you start putting it in place for the players to experience that, that's where I think we start getting results and seeing it. I've seen it over the years. I've seen that happening, players becoming really creative, really um, attuned to the game. at younger ages, U12, U13, and it's quite amazing to see. But again, I think we are the providers of that environment. We need to facilitate that, and I think that's the key for us. We're talking about all these, the problems we have in the coaching world that Hal just mentioned, and I agree with him 100%. A lot of parents are there just because my kid is here and they leave. But I think we're also responsible to create or to teach or to mentor the coaches who really love what they do and they're really here for a reason. We need to help them to get better at this. And sharing these ideas, I think, is the key now, is how we do this better. Is that just to play a game that is important, or do we need to understand what the purpose of this game is and how we apply this to the kids, the youth players? Because at the end of the day, that's what we do. We're teaching players. And I would say, just, when I work with national teams, and I've done it in soccer in Colombia, and I go do clinics, and national players or professional players are no different from kids. I always say, the pros are kids with a lot of money. That's the only difference I see. Otherwise, they're like anyone. They learn. I challenge people. Last time I was in Colombia in 2017, they invited me to this training session with one of the pro teams, and it was pretty interesting. And I say to the players, listen, you are living in a performance environment. You win or you lose. There's no great area here. You need to win. That's what you are getting paid for. So the session I designed for them that day was all competitive, and my God, the guys were like, "Holy shit, coach!" I said, "Listen, you think you're working hard? You are not even close to understand what working hard is. You play. This is my theory. Pros train really hard only when they play games. That's it. That's my observation after 40 years, and I can debate that anytime." But I will tell you one thing. What I've seen is pros only work at 100% or 120 when they are playing games at the pro level, or when they're playing a championship, the European Cup, or, all these Olympics. Talk about Olympics. That's when you get it. You really see the real competition, right? When you are exposed to that. In training, I think one of the big holes in training is, we're training hard, but I say, well, to rephrase the Spartans, they were the only, who said that? Heraclitus, a philosopher, said the Spartans were the only humans or that basically went to war to rest, because their training was so intense that they were so happy. We're going to war. We're going to have a break. And that's what they feared them so much, because they knew they were coming to destroy everything. So we need to take everything in perspective here when we talk about this exploration. I tell you one thing. Over the last 4 years, I've been trying a lot of stuff. With Dean, I had the opportunity. He opened the door. Him being now doing his research and his PhD have opened another door, that academic side that I think I was lacking, to be able to articulate better what I think, what I do. And I think it's been a fantastic journey. And then honesty, more like Wally said at the start, every day that I wake up, I don't know. I said, my God, I know so little, and I don't have time to learn so much that is out there. And the event of internet, have opened the world of knowledge to us. And we, honestly, I read, didn't have drilled me with all this research. And every day I read, it's like, my God, I know so little. And again, exploring for me becomes part of that. Is every time I talk to you guys now, today, what a day. You learn something every time. And I think we need to become better at what we do, I think, and keep refining our skill, and I think everybody can attest to that. Every day is we're learning. Whatever we coach U8s or professionals, I think.
Sammy, I am really curious because you've played, you've coached, you've managed. We've talked a lot of things here, and I'm really sorry Kim isn't on. And if she is, I'd like to get her take. But what do you take out of this all? We've sort of been all over the map with John. I think you can appreciate why he came on. The guy's studying, and he knows so much, and he's still doing it. And Sammy, please, if you would, and Kim next. But
yeah, Kim is still on, so she can comment next. You know what I'm taking out? I love this discussion. What I'm taking out of it is the growth mindset and the willingness to learn that coaches need throughout their careers, and that's why I appreciate this group so much. Is that the willingness to acknowledge that we're probably doing things wrong right now too, that we're going to acknowledge in 10 years that are not going right. But the athlete-centered focus, I love. And going back to Wally's philosophy of creating the citizen for, a greater good and a greater world, I think is so vital and so important. And we have, at times, a very short time frame with an athlete, and other times a longer time frame, but trying to impart as much as at that time the best that you can do. I think that that's so key for coaches to remember, that it isn't about the score clock. It isn't about winning and losing. It's about that each athlete developing not only their body and their proprioception and everything that goes along with being a good athlete, but teaching them to learn so that when they are in real scenarios, in real life, they have the capacity to make good decisions. So anyways, that's what I'm taking out of all of this. So loving it so far. Go ahead, Kim.
Thanks, Sammy. Yeah, I was thinking a lot. I just finished my 200th hour of being on the ice in the last 6 weeks, I think. And I've got about 5 more tonight, but, kind of reflecting a little bit about teaching players. And so I think like when the kids go to hockey camp or they're doing a skill practice, it's a mix of players. It's not their team. It's not their team head coach. I think that's a really safe place for them to develop, right? They're not worried about screwing up. Certainly in more competitive environments, they're not worried they're not going to get on the power play if they screw up a pass. Sometimes our team practices have, that stress element, certainly at the NHL level, if you're trying to crack the lineup and you're not doing so well in the team practice, that would have a big impact on your ability to play. So my thought actually this morning in advance of this call was, if a hockey camp or a skills session is safe and a place where you can fail, and the coach says, great job, do it again, try it again, right? You're not worried as much about, we got to get more reps in, or I got to move on to the power play drill. So you screwed it up. Bad job, Jimmy. Let's move on. How do you create that environment in a team setting, right? So I think that's what I'm sort of taking away from this, and in listening to everyone's amazing ideas, right? Maybe those small area games, or, something with more of those constraints where it's not you did the drill wrong or you went around the cone wrong, or, my daughter, still can't raise the puck consistently. And so every time we do a shooting drill, it's not necessarily the outcome she wants, but that's what I'm taking away, or the seed that I'm, I guess, planting here. How do we make those team practices safer, a safe place to fail, a safer place to learn, right? Wally was talking about yelling from the bench. We're puppeteers of the players. I do a little bit of that with our U9 players, but there's like four words total I say, and I just repeat them to try to kind of get some structure. But I think I've talked before on the call that they're not, telling them what to do. It's a little bit more high level than that, or structural than that. But that's what I'm taking away is that, I see now I'm coaching, John, I coach my daughter who's 7. So I'm coaching U9. I'll be helping with U7 this year because my other daughter is 5. There's no stress, even when they go to get, like, they just love it and they're just going. And, sometimes even the outcome doesn't really matter. It certainly matters to the parents and the other coaches. Absolutely. Even when it's half ice and no one's actually keeping score, although they're all keeping score. But for the players, they're not stressed necessarily about screwing up, except if they get a penalty and then they cry if they have to go in the penalty box. I never experienced that before. I've never had a player cry when they got a penalty and continue to cry the rest of the game because they got a penalty. So that's my thought, is how do we make it safer to fail, and so that the players aren't worried that they're not going to get the opportunity, or with the girls, and I hope coach midget and junior forever. Oh my God, I screwed up, or I didn't score. The scouts are watching. All the big showcase tournaments are coming up here in the Toronto area in the next couple of weeks. The amount of stress that these players have about, the number of scouts that will be in the stands, which will be in, the 50 to 100 probably at every single game, right? How are they approaching mentally, the idea of failure or the idea of development in those environments? So, it's as much about the physical drills as it is how we communicate and how we create those spaces for players. And I have to admit, I haven't watched a lot of pro practices other than, skill-based ones that are on the ice before me or after me in the summer. I'm not sure how you do that, or how you cultivate that, or when it switches for players, or if it's just the coach they have who's 100% outcome based who changes it for them. I think John's frantically putting up his hand like I do. Talk, so
I love it, Kim. I love it. You know what? When my kids were young, I started thinking how, like you say, how to create this safe environment for them. Because I saw too many yelling, too many swearing, too much of everything like that. And nowadays, I have this theory, and I'm going to share with you today. So think about this. The game itself is a complex system, right? And like any complex system, it fluctuates every time and evolves under the steady pressure of failure, right? So everything that goes in the game is about failure, basically, because like a system, complex system, it happens. You play the game at the highest level, like Sam, everybody, we play the game somewhere. And everything evolves about failure. And that's what I think we need to understand, that in that failure, like in the system, it emerges. It's an emergence of beauty out there. These moments of beauty, Sam, a beautiful save, Kim going around three players, and this is what really we need to process. I'm not looking for. I don't care about the failures. I tell my players, it doesn't matter to me. What matters to me is the emergence of beauty. I want you to create something beautiful every time. I talked to my kids when they were 8, 9, 10, and after that, I had the chance to have this beautiful group of 8 boys. The coach came and said, hey, I want my kid to train with you. I don't care how much you charge. Do you have 20 kids? They're yours. Oh my God. I was like, okay. The only condition, they do it my way. I tell you, it was an amazing experience for 5 years. What I told them was, here you are welcome to embrace failure, to embrace mistakes. I don't care. What I do care is that you make an effort to create beauty, to try things. And my God, honestly, I will tell you one thing, Kim, when you give that confidence, or that you set up that environment for the kids, it's magical. It's magical. I've seen it. I don't know what I can say. I can express it sometimes. I can taste it. I can feel it. I can breathe it. It's amazing. So love it. I think we the masters, or whatever you want to call the person in charge of there who's controlling, we are the creators of that beauty, if we want to set up the right way, or we are the destroyers of that beauty, if you want to put it that way. Because we, not the kids. I keep hearing this. He doesn't have an IQ. Oh, he's not smart. I say, well, who are you talking to? because now you're talking to me. So maybe you need to talk to me because you have a problem. Your job is to create that beauty. It's not to, I would say, mistakes are there, yes. And don't get me wrong here. It's time for showing the picture. Hey, what do you think here? That wasn't the best option. And they come up with that answer every time. Yes, coach, that wasn't good. Okay, good. What option else out there? Oh well, I could have passed here. I could have see this. I could have shoot to the top corner because she was on the ground. Because blah blah blah. Hey, my job is to create beauty. That's my job as a coach. So that's what I wanted to say, Kim, and I hope that helps a little bit. Thank you.
I guess my hands up. It'll be my turn. Lots to go on here, folks. As John said, the game is, there are so many variables in the game that you couldn't possibly have 100% success. So failure has to be part of it. And in my opinion, there's probably more failures in any game than there are successes. One of the things I've done over the years with players that I've worked with is that if you're not making enough mistakes, I tell them you're not trying hard enough. If you're trying to play safe, you're not learning, you're not developing, you're not advancing to any significant degree, if at all. My only caveat to that is learn from it. Don't keep repeating the mistake because you like doing it or that's what you're comfortable doing. Understand what works, what doesn't work, why it works, why it doesn't work, and get smarter, become better because of that. I love your term, emergence of beauty, because when the game is played well, that's exactly what it is to experienced eyes. To Tom's comment about throwing out the baby with the bathwater, I think there's room for all of these things, for deliberate practice, for small area games, for flow drills. It's just the right stuff, Wally, the right time and the right amount. I don't think there's any one method that dominates and makes it so much better than the rest that we can't do some of the others. I don't believe that I can run a good flow drill to try to tie things together if the players are not capable of doing all of the individual pieces that go into that activity. So it's about teaching those things, making sure they understand them, what the expectation is, and then let them free to do it. And I think it was Dean that brought up the one puck thing, and that's one of the things I employ in practice. There's one puck in the game, there's one puck in your activity. Treasure it. If you lose it, you either recapture it and complete, or you go back to the lineup and let the next group go. And very quickly, the players adapt to that. They grasp the significance of the puck and its importance to the game, and the possession and control puts you in control of the game. So don't be doing just getting lazy along the way. And I think, John, you brought up the word purpose. And when I watch practices, when I'm mentoring, I look for one thing. When they're running flow drills, why? If they're running static drills, why? Is there a purpose to it, or are we just filling ice time here? Wally, you were in attendance when I got back into coaching a few years back when, because of my experience, somebody asked me, what drill base are you using? And I go, I don't use any drill base. I have my own that I've designed over the years. If I need to address something in practice, I design an activity that addresses that purpose. And even when you're selecting drills, you don't select them, in my opinion, to try and fill 10 minutes of ice time and make it look interesting or make it look like you know what you're doing. You have a purpose for selecting that drill, and you explain that purpose to your group, and then you let them participate in it and hopefully learn from it. And you correct in the right manner along the way. What else have I got here? Oh, Hal's gone, but he addressed the idea that all of the videos and the courses we're required to take now as coaches, and then he goes and watches those same coaches after they run the sessions, and they're right back to doing what they've always done. And I submit that that's a habit of theirs, that it's more comfortable for them to go to practice and do what they're accustomed to doing than to try something new. And they need to get a little more venturesome too, and they should be encouraged to do that. That's the thoughts I have on a lot of this discussion. It's been great.
I like John's point of experiment, explore. Coaches, they don't dare yet. It takes a lot of confidence and support to do that. Dean, your hand's up. I don't know if you